presentation. Mr. Turner, give your statement.
Madam Chairman, Chairman Inouye, and members of the committee, I thank you for the opportunity to testify today on the important issues surrounding the future of radio. I'm the Research Director for Free Press, a public research organization dedicated to public education and consumer advocacy on communications policy. Even in today's multimedia world, broadcast radio remains one of the most powerful media in our daily lives. Well over 90% of Americans tune to the radio each week for an average of 19 hours a week. New technologies like HD radio and internet simulcasting hold great promise for the future of this industry, as do changing demographics. For example, while total time spent listening to radio has stagnated for the general population, it has actually increased substantially among African Americans and Latinos. And it matters who owns these stations. In democracy, the diversity of ownership should reflect the diversity of the population. Sadly, as my testimony will show, this is not the case. The FCC has a statutory obligation to promote ownership diversity. The Communications Act directs the Commission to, quote, avoid excessive concentrations of licenses by disseminating licenses among a wide variety of applicants, including businesses owned by women and members of minority groups. The Commission lacks even the most basic understanding of what actually the true state of female and minority broadcast ownership is. Now, we can't evaluate the problems that we don't measure or study, let alone solve them. This is why my organization, Free Press, took on the task the Commission has neglected. Using the Commission's own data, we found that, despite comprising over half of the population, women in this country own just 6% of the radio stations. Minorities make up a full third of our population, but own just 7.7% of the radio stations. And the stations that women and minorities own are fundamentally different. Female minority owners are more likely to own just one single station and are more likely to be local owners, which fosters a deeper connection to the communities that they serve. Now, these characteristics are very important, for they are the precise characteristics of those owners who were most vulnerable to the pressures of media consolidation. The 1996 Telecom Act triggered a wave of consolidation in the radio industry by removing the national ownership limit and increasing local ownership caps. The impact on ownership diversity was clear, and it was devastating. Since 1996, there's been a whopping 40% decrease in the number of owners, even as the number of stations has increased. In the average local market, just 2 firms control 74% of the market's revenue, a highly concentrated level by any standard. Now, how do female and minority owners compare? Are they fair under this wave of consolidation? Our research demonstrates conclusively and empirically that more consolidation means less female and minority ownership. As concentration increases, these single-station local owners find it increasingly difficult to compete against the big radio giants. Now, I mentioned earlier that the FCC has no idea what the true state of female and minority broadcast ownership is. This is not hyperbole. It may be hard to believe that the Commission has never conducted an accurate count. So the FCC collects information regarding the race, ethnicity, and gender of every broadcast owner. They have done nothing meaningful with this information. Instead, they issued bogus summaries that are deeply flawed. For example, our research conclusively showed that the Commission, in its most recent effort, missed over half of the stations owned by women and minorities, of the radio stations. In television, they fared far worse, missing over 2/3 of the television station owned by women and minorities. This is simply a shocking testament to the FCC's indifference to the plight of women and people of color in this country. And it is also an embarrassing record of neglect and incompetence for a federal agency. How can the Commission conduct any meaningful analysis regarding the effects of its policies if it can't even conduct a basic count of who owns what? Congress must send a message to the FCC to stop its rush towards more media consolidation. The Commission needs to first adequately study the issue of minority ownership before it moves forward with any rule changes. And the Commission needs to complete other related tasks, such as the dormant localism proceeding, and issue the long overdue Section 257 report that Congress requires on the Commission's efforts to promote ownership diversity. We also support other measures that increase opportunities for women and minorities to access the public radio airwaves. The Local Community Radio Act, sponsored by Senators Cantwell and McCain, expands low-power FM and will help create a more diverse broadcast system and will provide a crucial path to full ownership by women and people of color. In closing, ownership rules exist for a reason, to increase diversity and localism, which in turn produces more diverse speech, more choices for listeners, and more owners who are responsive to their local communities. I thank you for your attention and look forward to your questions.